He used everything I taught him to compete against me, just like I did to my mentor. Posted in r/am ithasshole. I, 48M, have been a pastry chef for 27 years. I've owned my own bakery for the last 23. It's not a chain, not a franchise, just a small artisan shop in a mid-sized city where I've built my reputation one croissant, one wedding cake, one satisfied customer at a time. My specialty is French-style pastries with a modern twist. I'm known for my coincidental, my Paris Brest, and especially my signature creation, a lavender honey millefeuille that took me 3 years to perfect. This morning, I arrived at my shop at 4:30 a.m. like I always do. The streets were still dark, the air had that cold bite that's perfect for working with butter. I parked in my usual spot, grabbed my bag, and looked up. Across the street, directly across, maybe 50 meters away, there were balloons. Streamers. A massive banner that read, "Grand Opening." And beneath it, a bakery. Not just any bakery. A pastry shop with floor-to-ceiling windows, elegant white and gold signage, and a display case that, even from across the street, I could tell was arranged exactly the way I taught. The way I've arranged my displays for 2 decades. I stood there, frozen, my breath fogging in the cold air. And then I saw him through the window. My former apprentice. He was adjusting a tray of what looked like, I squinted, my stomach dropping, coincidental. My coincidental. The ones with the specific butterfold technique I developed over 15 years. The ones I taught him to make during his 2nd year with me. For a moment, I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The world narrowed to just that window, that display, that familiar silhouette moving confidently through what was clearly his shop now. Then the rage hit. Update 1, the apprenticeship and the betrayal. I need to give you some background, because I know how this might sound. Oh, another jealous business owner upset about competition. But this is different. This is personal. My apprentice came to me 4 years ago. He was 24, fresh out of culinary school, with more enthusiasm than skill but a genuine passion for pastry that I recognized immediately. It reminded me of myself at that age, that hunger to learn, to create, to master something difficult and beautiful. He begged me for a position. I didn't have one. My team was full, my budget was tight, and I'd stopped taking apprentices years before because it was too much work for too little return. Most young people these days want shortcuts. They want Instagram fame without the 4 a.m. wake-ups, without the burned fingers and the failed batches and the years of practice. But something about him was different. He showed up at my back door every morning for 2 weeks, just to watch through the window while I worked. He'd leave notes with questions about technique. He once brought me a croissant he'd made at home. It was terrible, honestly, the lamination was all wrong, but he'd included a detailed breakdown of what he thought he'd done incorrectly and what he wanted to try differently. So I took him on. For 3 years, I taught him everything. And I mean everything. The technical skills, tempering chocolate, making pot feuilleté from scratch, the exact humidity levels for different doughs, how to read butter by feel rather than temperature. The business knowledge, supplier relationships I'd cultivated for decades, the wholesale contacts who gave me the best prices, the seasonal strategies that kept my shop profitable through slow months. The intangibles, how to talk to wedding clients, how to handle complaints, how to build relationships with local restaurants that might feature your desserts. I introduced him to the food community in our city. Brought him to industry events. Let him stand beside me at competitions. When other chefs asked about him, I said, "This one's special. He's going to do great things." I treated him like family. My wife and I had him over for dinner. I helped him when he was struggling with rent. I gave him bonuses I couldn't really afford because I believed in him. And his progress was remarkable. By the end of year 2, he could execute most of my signature recipes with precision. By year 3, he was experimenting, creating variations, developing his own style, always building on the foundation I'd given him. Then, 8 months ago, he came to me with tears in his eyes. "I have to leave," he said. "My mother is sick. She's in another city, and she needs me. I'm so sorry. I don't want to go, but family comes first." What could I say? I hugged him, told him I understood, gave him a glowing reference letter and a severance package he hadn't earned but that I thought he deserved. We had a farewell dinner. I told him my door would always be open if he ever came back. He didn't come back to work for me. He came back to compete against me. Update 2, the lawyer's answer and my wife's question. My first instinct was legal action. I spent the entire morning in a fog, barely functional, burning a batch of croissants for the first time in years because I couldn't focus. By lunch, I'd made 3 phone calls, one to my accountant, one to a business attorney, and one to a friend who'd dealt with a similar situation years ago. The lawyer's answer crushed me. Did you have him sign a non-compete agreement?
No.
I never thought I needed one. He was practically family. Are your recipes documented and trademarked? They're in my head. Some notes. Nothing formal. Recipes can't be patented anyway, only the specific written expression, not the technique or ingredient list. Did he steal physical property? Client lists? Financial records?
No.
He just remembered everything I taught him. Then I'm sorry, my lawyer said, but he hasn't done anything illegal. Unethical, maybe. Personally hurtful, certainly. But not actionable. This happens in the restaurant industry more than you'd think. I hung up feeling gutted. Used. Violated in a way I couldn't explain. All those hours of teaching, all that trust, and legally it meant nothing. He could take everything I'd given him and use it against me, and there wasn't a thing I could do about it. That night, I came home late. My wife was waiting up, which she rarely does anymore. We've been married 22 years, and she knows I need quiet after difficult days. But she could tell something was wrong. I told her everything. She listened. She held my hand. And then she said something that hit me like a punch to the chest. Didn't you do the same thing to your mentor? I pulled my hand away. That was different. Was it? I didn't open across the street from him. I didn't lie about leaving. I was upfront about. You opened 45 minutes away. You used his recipes, his techniques. You took what he taught you and built your own business. I improved on them. I made them my own. And your apprentice hasn't? After 8 months of work, after 3 years of learning, you think his shop is just a carbon copy. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. She went to bed, and I stayed up until 3 a.m., staring at nothing, feeling something shift inside me that I didn't want to acknowledge. Update 3. The past I don't talk about. I wanted to hate him. It would be so much easier if I could just hate him. If I could look at my apprentice and see a villain, a calculating thief who planned this all along, who pretended to care about me while secretly scheming to steal my livelihood. That narrative would be clean. Righteous. It would let me be the hero. But my wife's question haunted me. I kept telling myself my situation was different. But the more I thought about it, 25 years ago, I was him. My mentor was a man who trained in Paris, worked at a Michelin-starred restaurant, and then opened a small patisserie in the suburbs because he wanted a quieter life. He was brilliant, demanding, sometimes harsh, but brilliant. He taught me everything I know about the fundamentals of French pastry. The mother recipes, he called them. The techniques from which all other techniques are born. I worked for him for 4 years. Learned at his elbow. Absorbed his philosophy, his precision, his secrets. And then I left. I told myself I had good reasons. He was difficult to work with. He didn't pay well. He didn't appreciate my innovations or my ideas for modernizing his approach. I was talented, ambitious, capable of more than being someone else's assistant forever. So I opened my own shop. 45 minutes away, yes, but in a larger market. A growing area. I took everything he'd taught me and built something that, within 5 years, was more successful than his bakery had ever been. He never spoke to me again. Not once. When we crossed paths at industry events, he would look through me like I wasn't there. When mutual acquaintances tried to broker peace, he refused. When he retired 6 years ago, he sold his shop to a stranger rather than offer it to me. I told myself he was petty, bitter, unable to accept that his student had surpassed him. I keep wondering what my old mentor thought when he saw my shop open. Did he feel this same rage? This same confusion? Did he stand in the early morning darkness, looking at my success, wondering where he went wrong? Did he blame himself for teaching me too much, for trusting me too freely, for loving me like a son? God. Update 4. Watching him work. I've spent the past week doing something I'm not proud of. Every morning, after I open my shop and get my team started on the day's production, I find excuses to step outside. Adjust the sandwich board. Check the window display. Take out trash. Really, I'm watching him. His shop is busy. Not overwhelmingly so. He's new, still building reputation, but there's a steady stream of customers. I watch them walk out with white boxes, with coffee cups, with satisfied expressions. Some of them glance at my shop across the street. A few even come over afterward, comparing, tasting both. I tell myself I'm gathering intelligence. Studying the competition. That's just good business. But mostly I'm trying to understand. Through his windows, I can see him working. He moves differently than when he was under my roof. More confidently, more expansively. He's added things to the menu I don't recognize. Pastries that weren't part of my repertoire. Innovations. Improvements. 2 days ago, a customer came into my shop and ordered a lavender honey millefeuille. My signature. The one I perfected over 3 years of experimentation. I had the one across the street, she said, but I wanted to compare. My friend says yours is the original. I made her the best millefeuille I've ever made. Put extra care into every layer, every fold, every drizzle of lavender honey. She took one bite, closed her eyes, and smiled. This is better, she said. I can taste the difference. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I felt empty. Because what was I proving? That I could still beat a 28-year-old who's been on his own for 8 months? That the master is still better than the student? What happens in 5 years? 10. When he's had time to refine, to grow, to develop. When he's accumulated his own decades of experience. What happens when he becomes what I became? Update 5. The conversation I didn't expect. Yesterday, he came to see me. It was after closing. I was alone, doing inventory, the way I always do on Thursday nights. I heard the back door open and tensed, thinking it was my wife coming to bring me dinner. It was him. He looked tired. Thinner than I remembered. There were flour streaks on his apron that told me he'd come straight from his own kitchen. "Can we talk?" he asked. Every part of me wanted to say no. To throw him out. To rage at him for his betrayal, his lies, his calculated theft of everything I'd built. Instead, I said, "Okay." We sat at my prep table, the same table where I'd taught him to temper chocolate, where we'd had countless conversations about technique and dreams and the future. "I know you're angry," he said. "I know you feel like I lied to you. And maybe I did. About my mother. Maybe. She was sick. Is sick. But she lives here now. She moved when I did, when I came back." He paused. "I didn't move away to take care of her. I moved away because I needed space. To figure out what I wanted. To figure out if I was brave enough to do what I knew I had to do. Which was open my own shop. Use what I'd learned. Build something that was mine. Across the street from me." He looked at me then, and I saw something I didn't expect. Not defiance, not malice, but genuine confusion. This was the only location I could afford. The landlord gave me a deal because the space had been empty for 2 years. I didn't choose it to hurt you. I chose it because it was the only way I could make the numbers work. And the recipes, the techniques, the suppliers. What was I supposed to do? Pretend I didn't know them? Deliberately make worse pastries so I wouldn't compete with you? The question hung between us. I didn't have an answer. "You taught me everything," he said, quieter now. "And I'm grateful. I am. But you taught me so well that the only thing left to do was leave. I couldn't grow any more under your roof. I couldn't become what I needed to become while still being your apprentice. So you left. So I left. And I lied about why because I was scared. Because I didn't know how to tell you that the greatest gift you gave me was the ability to not need you anymore. Maybe I didn't teach him to betray me. Maybe I taught him to survive." The thought arrived unbidden, and I couldn't push it away. He left after that. We didn't resolve anything. Didn't shake hands or hug or make promises about how things would be between us. He just stood up, said, "I'm sorry you're hurt," and walked out the door. I sat there for a long time after, thinking about masters and apprentices, about mentors and students, about the strange cycle of teaching someone everything you know, knowing that the end result, if you do it right, is that they won't need you anymore. Is that betrayal? Or is it just success? The question I can't answer. I've been turning this over in my head for days now, and I'm no closer to resolution. I don't know if I'm the victim or the villain. Maybe I'm both. My wife thinks I should let it go. "You have loyal customers," she says. "You have decades of reputation. One young competitor isn't going to destroy what you've built. And maybe this is just karma. Karma. For what I did 25 years ago to a man who taught me everything and got nothing in return except my success as a competitor. Part of me wants to fight. To compete harder. To prove that the original is still better than the copy, that experience and mastery can't be replicated by youth and ambition alone. I could modernize my shop. Expand my menu. Increase my marketing. Crush him with the weight of everything I've accumulated. Part of me wants to confront him properly. Not the hesitant conversation we had, but a real reckoning. Make him understand what he's taken from me. Force him to acknowledge the betrayal, even if the law won't. Part of me wants to let him in. To accept that this is how the industry works, that I benefited from the same cycle, that trying to stop it would be hypocritical at best and pointless at worst. Maybe we could even collaborate someday. Two shops, different approaches, shared history. And part of me, the smallest, most shameful part, wants to find my old mentor. Track him down wherever he is now and apologize. Tell him I finally understand. Ask him how he survived feeling what I feel now. I keep coming back to one thought: the industry normalizes this. The tradition of apprenticeship, learning from a master, then going out on your own, is centuries old. It's how skills are passed down. It's how innovation happens. Every chef who ever opened their own restaurant first learned in someone else's kitchen. But knowing that doesn't make the anger go away. Doesn't heal the sense of betrayal. Doesn't answer the question of what I'm supposed to do with this person who was once like a son to me and who now makes a living by selling what I taught him, 50 meters from my door. He's not evil. I see that now. He's not a calculating villain who planned this all along. He's just ambitious. Hungry. Doing exactly what I did at his age. Doing exactly what the industry taught both of us to do. But understanding him doesn't mean I've forgiven him. Understanding my own hypocrisy doesn't mean I know how to move forward. So I'm asking you, Reddit. Am I the asshole for wanting to destroy his business, even though I did the same thing to my own mentor decades ago? Should I fight him? Compete with everything I have, try to drive him out of business before he can establish himself? Should I confront him again? Demand real acknowledgement of what he's done, even if there's nothing illegal about it? Should I let it go? Accept that this is just how things work, that I'm being a hypocrite for being angry, that I need to make peace with the cycle I once benefited from? Should I try to rebuild the relationship? Find some way to coexist, maybe even collaborate, turn a competitor into something more complicated but also more meaningful? Or something else entirely? I genuinely don't know. I've been doing this for 27 years, and I've never felt more lost. The certainty I had a week ago, that he was wrong, that I was right, that justice needed to be served, has crumbled. In its place is just confusion, grief, the uncomfortable recognition that the world isn't as simple as I wanted it to be. Maybe the real answer is that there is no answer. Maybe some situations don't have clean resolutions, only choices with consequences you have to live with. But I'm hoping someone out there has wisdom I don't, has been through something similar, can see something I'm too close to see. I'll read every comment. I promise. TLDR. My apprentice opened a bakery across the street using everything I taught him after lying about why he left. I wanted to sue, but nothing illegal happened. My wife reminded me I did the same thing to my mentor 25 years ago and he never forgave me. Now I don't know if I'm justified in my anger or just a hypocrite. Former apprentice isn't evil, just ambitious, like I was. Don't know whether to compete, confront, forgive, or something else. Asking for genuine advice. Edit. Thank you all for the comments so far. A few clarifications. Yes, I know I should have had him sign a non-compete. I've heard it from my lawyer, my accountant, and about 40 of you. I didn't because I trusted him. Lesson learned. For those asking about my mentor, he passed away 3 years ago. I found out through a mutual acquaintance. We never reconciled. I didn't go to the funeral because I didn't feel I had the right. That's part of why this situation is hitting me so hard. Several people have asked if the apprentice's recipes are actually identical to mine or if he's changed them. Honestly, I don't know. I haven't tried his food. I've been angry, scared. I don't know what I'd feel if his version turned out to be better than mine. Or what I'd feel if it was worse. Both possibilities terrify me, and my wife has been incredibly patient through all of this. We've been married 22 years, and she knows me better than I know myself. When she asked me about my mentor, she wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to get me to see something I'd been avoiding. I'm lucky to have her, the person who'd met me asking which city I'm in because they want to try both bakeries. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm keeping location details private for obvious reasons. I'll keep updating if there are significant developments. Right now, I'm just sitting with it, trying to figure out who I want to be in this situation. What kind of man I want to be when I look back on this in another 25 years. Thank you for listening. Even the judgmental comments have been helpful, honestly. Sometimes you need people to tell you the uncomfortable truths you've been avoiding. Final thought. Someone in the comments pointed out that the word apprentice comes from the French word meaning to learn. That the entire concept of apprenticeship is built on the assumption that the student will eventually leave and apply what they've learned elsewhere. That this is the whole point, not a betrayal of the system, but its natural outcome. I've been thinking about that. About what it means to teach someone. About what we owe the people who taught us, and what our students owe us in return. My mentor gave me everything. His knowledge, his techniques, his years of accumulated wisdom. And I took it and built something of my own, something that eventually surpassed what he'd created. I told myself that was different because I did it with good intentions. Because I didn't mean to hurt him. Because I believed I was honoring his legacy by carrying it forward. But he didn't see it that way. He saw what I'm seeing now. Someone you loved, someone you invested in, someone you gave your best years to, walking away and using everything you gave them to compete against you. Maybe the only difference between us is time. Maybe in 25 years, my apprentice will be standing where I am now, watching his own student open a shop across the street, feeling this same impossible mixture of rage and recognition. And maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe that's just how it works. How it's always worked. The torch passes, even when we don't want to let go of it. The student becomes the master, and the cycle begins again. I still don't know what to do. But I think I understand something I didn't understand a week ago. I understand why my mentor never spoke to me again. And I understand why that silence wasn't just anger, it was grief. The grief of watching someone you shaped become someone who no longer needs you. The grief of realizing that your greatest success as a teacher is also your greatest loss. I'm not ready to forgive my apprentice. I'm not ready to compete with him like nothing happened. I'm not ready to do much of anything except sit in this uncomfortable space and feel what I feel. But maybe that's enough for now. Maybe the first step isn't action, it's understanding. Understanding that the person across the street isn't my enemy. He's my legacy. Whether I want him to be or not. I don't have a neat ending for you, Reddit. I don't have a resolution or a victory or even a clear next step. All I have is this: a week ago, I knew exactly who the villain was. Today, I'm not sure there is one. And somehow, that's worse and better at the same time. Upvote if you've read this far. I know it's long. I know it's complicated. But I needed to get it out somewhere, and this seemed like the place. I'll update when there's something to update. If you have advice, I'm listening. If you've been through something similar, I especially want to hear from you. Thank you. Here's what I learned from watching my apprentice succeed across the street. Sometimes the person you're angriest at is just a younger version of yourself. For a week, I searched for a villain. I wanted someone to blame, someone to fight, someone whose defeat would make everything feel right again. I consulted lawyers. I fantasized about crushing his business. I told myself this was different, that what I did to my mentor 25 years ago wasn't the same thing at all. My wife asked one question, and the whole narrative collapsed. I did this. Not to my apprentice, but to someone who taught me everything, who trusted me like family, who watched me walk away and use his life's work to build my own success. My mentor died 3 years ago. We never spoke again after I left. I didn't go to his funeral because I didn't feel I had the right. Now I understand why he never forgave me. It wasn't pettiness. It wasn't jealousy. It was this impossible mixture of rage and recognition, the grief of watching someone you shaped become someone who no longer needs you. My apprentice isn't a villain. He's ambitious, hungry, talented. He's doing exactly what I did at his age, exactly what this industry has normalized for centuries. The word apprentice literally means to learn. The whole point is that they leave. The whole point is that they take what you gave them and build something of their own. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt less. Maybe I didn't teach him to betray me. Maybe I taught him to survive. Maybe the greatest gift a master can give is the ability to be left behind. I keep thinking about my mentor in his final years. Did he ever drive past my shop? Did he see my success and feel what I feel now? Did he understand, eventually, that I wasn't trying to hurt him, that I was just doing what he'd trained me to do? I'll never know. That's the part that haunts me. The conversation we never had. The apology I never made. The reconciliation that died with him. Someone in the comments said the student becomes the master, and the cycle begins again. Maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe that's just how knowledge survives, passed from hand to hand, sometimes roughly, sometimes with pain, but always forward. I'm not ready to forgive my apprentice. I'm not ready to compete like nothing happened. I'm not ready to do anything except sit in this uncomfortable space and feel what I feel. But I understand something I didn't understand a week ago. The person across the street isn't my enemy. He's my legacy. Whether I want him to be or not. A week ago, I knew exactly who the villain was. Today, I'm not sure there is one. And somehow, that's worse and better at the same time. I don't have a resolution. I don't have a victory. All I have is a question I can't answer and a cycle I can't break. Maybe that's enough. Maybe understanding is the first step, even when you don't know where it leads. My mentor never got my apology. Maybe the only thing I can do now is not become him. Not let this silence stretch into decades. Not die with someone out there who wonders if I ever understood. I'm not there yet. But I'm thinking about it. That has to count for something.